It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Monday and our first show of June. Gary, how are you?
Don't bother me.
What do you got going on over there?
I'm watching an Elon Musk humanoid robot.
Yeah, finally
dancing.
Yeah, finally Elon Musk has created a robot that dances better than he does.
Yeah, it's it's hilarious.
Remember that weird dance he came out one time? I forget what they were unveiling.
Whatever Musk, put this on X.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it reminds me of the Elaine episode on Seinfeld where she's dancing.
No, the one. There's one that's doing these moves, totally doing the Elaine move.
Exactly. It's almost as if Elaine, we need to program this. Forget about artificial intelligence. Just put in the Elaine moves, and we're all set.
You know what robots do right after they dance? Eliminate the human population. That's what I heard. Right after they dance.
Well, it does remind you of the movie I, Robot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
When you look, it's like, wow.
I was thinking about another movie there, but if you want to go I, Robot, it's fine with me. I don't care.
Now, does the robot not have a face?
Well, it has a face, but it's not one to write home about.
Oh, okay. I can't.
It looks like a mask. It's just kind of a yeah. Well, you know what's interesting? It's exactly what all of those who claim they were abducted by extraterrestrials. It didn't have a face. It was like these big glowing things in the front.
So it's never been extraterrestrials. It's been
robots from the
robots.
Future. Yeah,
robots from the future.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And Musk has all that tech. Now, that's why he can go to Mars, is because Musk, I got it now.
He's already there.
He's in communication with all the extraterrestrials already.
Well, he's already there. We're living in the past. He's in the future, and then he's coming back to us in the past. He's already there. So that's already happened. It's how he became a trillionaire. That's how he did it. He didn't actually invent anything. He figured out time travel and then wrote all the lottery numbers down.
Oh, by the way, Dad says hi.
Well, hello to your dad.
I saw Dad. I'm telling you, this weekend seems like it was a week.
It does.
I thought it was a 3-day weekend because I flew into Western New York on Friday evening, got in about 9:30. No, about 9. Was it 9:30? I'm trying to figure out when the heck I got in. No, I'm sorry. I got in at 7 o'clock. I got back then Saturday night at 9:30. So I was there for 26 hours. I mean, I flew, and I did so much when I was there, and then fell asleep and woke up, did a bunch of stuff yesterday. When I woke up, why did I wake up? I was sleeping so good, and all of a sudden, there's a crack of thunder, whatever, and I hear, okay, I go back to sleep again, and then I'm awakened by the storm sirens.
Oh.
They went on for like 5 minutes and went off for a couple minutes and went back on again. I'm like, okay, what is it? So, because they're not tornado anymore.
Right.
All it did was create a total massive confusion.
Right.
Because I went on social media and, went on the Nextdoor site, group texting. From the neighborhood. Everyone's like, why? Nobody has any idea. There's no warnings on your phone.
Yeah.
It's just the sirens are going off. And I'm like, well, that's really good. We have all the technology. Now they use it. And the public has no idea why it's going off. And they figured it was probably hail. But by the time it went off, the hail was already northeast of where I live by. And that was a guess that it was hail.
Right.
It was golf ball size hail or bigger because some had hit west of us. But it was northeast of us by 15 miles by the time our sirens went off. And at the worst of the storm had gone by, it was all light rain. It's like, wow. So I'm like, okay, well, when you confuse everybody, you may want to look at.
It shouldn't. It honestly, it should be about tornadoes or something severe, high winds that are dangerous, something that's really going to endanger life. I do know that massive hail, of course, softball size hail can be extremely dangerous, but it needs to be something in the immediate area. It needs to be life threatening, I think.
Yeah, that's
really damaging stuff.
Well, it's just people were confused; they didn't know what to to do.
Right. Yeah.
And they said there were 65-mile-an-hour winds, but I'm like, okay, that is. We've had 65-mile-an-hour gusts. Well, we've had that, and there's been no sirens, or you may be a high wind warning that you get.
Yeah.
But nothing on my phone.
Right.
And you figure you would figure that once the weather sirens go off, you're going to get emergency notifications on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like everybody was completely confused.
Right.
But besides that, it was a good weekend. How was we missed you last week? You missed a lot of great stuff that was going on.
I was at Shell Rotella Super Rigs, great truck show at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Had a great turnout. Lots of rain there. We actually, the first day on Thursday, had some severe weather in the area. They reported a tornado on the ground, but it wasn't near us. It was actually closer to our hotel. But it was really great. It's really hard to go to those shows and talk to drivers. Truck drivers have been, the industry has been in a recession for a while. And a lot of that comes from a number of things. The rates have bottomed out, overcapacity from a lot of truck companies being created during COVID, but also something that a lot of people have been talking about. We've talked about it before, and that is foreign CDL holders coming over here. And during the last year of Obama and in the year of in the Biden administration, what they did is they ramped up this, I guess you could call it look-away process or policy that they put into place. Ignore people who can't, read English if they come here with a CDL. And that's, of course, imperative if you're going to navigate the roads commercially. And so that got into a situation where the rates have bottomed out. People come here from other countries, which is great. If you want to do that, you come here, but you should be able to also be proficient in English. The Trump administration recently turned that around, but it created a massive rate drop. And it also, a lot of people will tell you that it contributed to a higher fatality rate when it comes to big rig accidents on the nation's highways. A lot has been written about it. In fact, while I was gone, there was a ton of stuff that was out about it. And so it's really tough to, when you're talking to the people that are trying to make a living in that industry, and if without that industry, it's forget the toilet paper shortage during COVID. There would be a massive shortage of everything. Everything is moved by truck. And it's just frustrating to see when there are way too many people that are circumventing the rules, or in this case, former administrations that were willing to bend the rules or just ignore the rules and allow this to happen. If you come here from another country legally, great. You should be able to, again, just like with anything, if you're going to get a license to do something, you should be able to do it based on the rules here. And that was ignored. It is changing, again, thanks to the Trump administration to a certain degree, and hopefully rates will be restored. But it's really tough. And without the trucking industry, everything stops. So other than that, the truck show was very good. People were in good spirits. Just really great. One of the top winners, in fact, came here from Cuba on a raft that he built and is a pro-American all the way, American citizen, and is, this is, when you think about, you and I have talked about immigration in general, and what it's going to take to rebuild an economy. Trump has said it before. He supports people coming here legally in order to have workers. But the American public right now is, look, let's secure the border, which they did, and it was just a matter of weeks they got that done. But there are other things that have to be remedied in the meantime. And again, the Trump administration is working on those items, and I think they will, hopefully that will put it back where it needs to be. You want to come here legally, that's great. You have to go through the process of being licensed to make sure that everybody is safe on the road. And where the competition goes, I don't know. Because if the rates are going to continue to fall and fall and fall, there's only so far they can go down, because people can't do this for free, and they won't. And we've seen far too many trucking companies go out of business. It's just it's insane. So we'll see where that is remedied. They keep saying the rates will come back, but I don't know when that's going to happen. I really don't. But heads were held high when I was at this event, and I went to the event, the Mid-America Trucking Show in March. Same thing. There were a lot of positive attitudes. The people who do that for a living are hard workers, and they want to do the work. And we, as a public, should be grateful. And so we'll see where it goes. That was kind of the underlying theme, talking to people over the last several days. Shell puts on a great event. It's just always a lot of fun. It really is. But again, talking to those drivers, you want to get the pulse of what's going on with them. And many of them are very successful and will remain so. But the industry overall is hurting because of the rates. And I'm hopeful that will turn around sooner than later. It's been a long time. It's been way too long. So it's interesting to see, too, the economy in 2025 of where the consumer is, what the consumer demand is going to be. All this plays into the stuff that's going to go on trucks, what we're going to order, what the entire supply chain is going to be filled with. And, it's an ever-changing world. It's hard to predict what's going to be next. And so, I just think it's a good time right now to, when you look at everything that's going on. I mean, the recent tariffs, there was, more tariff talk over the weekend with the president, or at the end of last week, I guess, with the president. And I didn't hear a lot of that in terms of the feedback. It's anecdotal, but I didn't hear a lot about that. It was more about, again, the rates overall and trucking and where they're going to be, how people will make a living doing that. And so very interesting to see. Atlanta Airport is crazy. I'm going to say that. It's madness. It's I don't know if it's in the top 5 of busiest airports, but man, it's crazy.
Oh yeah,
it's insane.
It's number 1, I think.
Is it number 1? I was going to say I thought it was number 1 in terms of busyness.
Yeah.
It's also rated the loudest airport. I don't remember who does the loudness thing. I didn't find it overly loud. Then again, I've lost part of my hearing. So,
Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport is consistently ranked as the busiest airport in the world by passenger traffic. In 2024, it held the spot again with over 108 million Americans. It's been the world's busiest airport by passenger traffic since 1988. The exception was 2020 due to COVID. Yeah,
it's crazy. I've been through there a few times. I've never gone to Atlanta and then flown out of Atlanta. Flying out of, by the way, actually it wasn't that bad. But they have these lanes where you pull up, they just drop you out. You don't pull to the curb. I mean, you may happen to be in that lane close to the curb, but you just get out and grab your stuff and run in, And I mean, unless you're parking. And I got out. I went checked in and then went through TSA. They let me in the pre-check line because the other line was just madness. And the lady said, "Here, go in this one." And I walked straight through, went straight through the screening, And I was early because the event was over. I thought, well, I just want to get to the airport just so I know I can get through because I've never navigated leaving Atlanta Airport and got through. I had no issues. TSA was great. The American Airlines people there were great. The flight home, no problem. Flight out there, no problem. Had a few seats open on the plane coming home. I got home on Saturday night. I was thinking I was coming home Sunday, but I was able to get a flight home Saturday night. And there were
what time
a good
did you
handful. Get in? It was close to 10 o'clock.
Yeah, a little after when I got in.
Yeah, and it wasn't that bad.
What terminal did you land in?
C.
Oh, okay. I landed in A. I thought I was thinking when I was walking to my car because I had parked my car in my vehicle in Terminal A.
Yeah,
I'm walking. I'm like, wonder if I'm going to see Eric. Is he coming back tonight or?
Yeah,
that'd be great if we're walking. We walk by each other.
Yeah,
but we got a great show ahead. So much going on. The terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado. We will mention the steel deal and the new. Well, he announced they're coming this week.
Right.
They weren't applied yet. We'll see what happens to that. Buttigieg now leads the 2028 Democratic field. A new poll says.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It was like I saw Babylon Bee or somebody had the one. It's like, oh, yeah, you just put a beard on him and now it's
right. Yeah.
Americans want men with beards running for president.
I guess.
So we've got that and just tons of other stuff, too. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Hey there, Hope Savara here with Mother Trucker Yoga, and this is your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Neck strain can really be a pain, especially after long hours behind the wheel. Did you know neck pain affects nearly 70% of drivers at some point in their career? So let's loosen things up. Sit tall and tip your head to your right shoulder. Now pull your left shoulder down gently and hold for 10 seconds. Switch sides, left ear to left shoulder, right shoulder pulls down and hold for 10. Now roll your shoulders 5 big circles forward and 5 back. Open your mouth wide and stretch your jaw. Hold for 10. Close and repeat that 2 more times. Finally, take a deep breath in through your nose, pause, and exhale through your mouth. There you go. Small, simple changes lead to big results so that you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more info.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, latest on the terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado. Just heinous. And again, somebody who was in the country illegally was supposed to be gone by March, from what I'm reading. An Egyptian national, Mohammed Solomon. Wow. When I first saw that, I went, what in the world's going on? Because it came across, when I saw it came across as a quick news item when I was watching the golf yesterday, it was simply that the federal government has said, and then I had to go to Twitter and everything else, and Twitter X, and started looking and started seeing people that were there, and they actually showed the suspect screaming and whatever a makeshift. It's almost like he had a bottle there that looked like a bottle of liquid.
Molotov cocktails is what they said. Yeah,
it was Molotov cocktail and an improvised flamethrower.
Right,
I've said both.
Yeah, right.
So was that a bottle squeegee that had fuel in it that he was spraying and then lit it near them? I
don't know.
Yeah,
right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio, from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Yeah, the terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado yesterday. I've seen news reports that said just said Molotov cocktails, and I've seen Molotov cocktails and an improvised flamethrower.
Right.
Whatever an improvised flamethrower is. I mean, we imagine that it's, you think of World War II with the tanks on your back. That's not what it was.
Right.
But we'll see what authorities come up with. No matter what, he set people on fire, and we know Molotov cocktails were involved in it.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see what that other story is about there and what that actually means. But you have the suspect, according to Fox News, is this is written by Bill Malusian yesterday. The suspect accused in the targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, where a pro-Israel group was advocating for Hamas to release Israeli hostages, was in the United States illegally. Mohammed Solomon, 45 years old, was arrested and taken to a hospital with minor injuries after his alleged attack on the Run for Their Lives group that was gathering in Boulder. Police said Sunday night the group is a grassroots organization that facilitates global run and walk events calling for the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas. This particular chapter of the group meets on a weekly basis. Solomon is a Egyptian national who overstayed his visa after entering the United States during the Biden administration. 3 Homeland Security and a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement sources told Fox News. Solomon first arrived in the United States after landing in L.A. on August 27, 2022, with a non-immigrant visa. He was authorized to stay through February 2nd, 2023, but never left. On September 9, 2022, he filed a claim with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. On March 29, 2023, he was granted a work authorization, which was valid through March of this year. A terror attack was committed in Boulder, Colorado by an illegal immigrant, said White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. Wrote on X he was granted a tourist visa by the Biden administration, then illegally overstayed that visa. In response, the Biden administration gave him a work permit. Suicidal migration must be reversed. That's a quote from Stephen Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon was allegedly yelling "Free Palestine" during the attack, and which was near the county courthouse on Pearl Street in Boulder. Police responded to the area for receiving reports of a man with a weapon setting people on fire. The FBI said 6 people ages 67 to 88 were injured and taken to the hospital. One of those victims is considered to be in critical condition. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said the attack is being investigated as an act of ideologically motivated violence based on early information. Solomon was booked into the Boulder County Jail on Sunday evening. The specific charges he is facing is not immediately available. Wow.
Yeah.
And that came after the erroneous reporting the other day by American media that Israel had shot Palestinian civilians.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The anti-Semitism that we have seen since October 7th, the radical protests and things like this, the shooting that happened just a couple of weeks ago, Governor Shapiro's house, governor's mansion, set on fire. We have seen again this mindset that these radicals who are pro-Hamas, anti-Semites, are going to carry on to, I don't know, to what extent. It just seems over and over again we have these conversations, and, the headlines too. They don't know his motivation. Well, the witnesses were talking about what he was screaming. The headlines yesterday, as this was breaking, it's unknown the motivation. Actually, according to the witnesses, I think it's very clear his motivation.
It wasn't that he was angry at any sports team.
No.
And I don't know how you interpret, because I was reading, I forgot where I was reading it, but it said the man was yelling free Palestine, and authorities still haven't figured out the motivation behind it.
Right. Yeah, right.
Well,
he pretty much told you that. He told you the motivation.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to sort of figure it out with what the witnesses have said. The correct thing would be authorities suspect it was an act of terrorism based on the hatred towards Israel and the Jews, based on what the man said.
Right.
But it's like, come on, jeez.
Well, that was it. The liberal activist media made it just sound like it was just some kind of random attack. That it was, some guy lost it. Well, according to the witnesses, we know why he was there. According to the witnesses, we know. So it's over and over again. We have seen this play out, and the left activist media refuses to acknowledge it. Well, they'll tell you about the protesters in terms of the protesters themselves. Well, they have a right to free speech. They have a right to free speech. They have a right to free speech. They get into, we get into talking about people who are here on student visas or any visa. Well, they have a right to free speech. If you're going to come here on a visa and support the enemy, sorry, you got to go.
Well, it's more than. I guess it is supporting the enemy when you say things that support the enemy and you commit a terrorist attack that supports the enemy.
In this case, you got to go to prison if you're guilty of that.
Right.
And again, October 7th, that line was drawn. Radicals and everybody else. Well, we know the one thing is we know who the radicals are. We know you can hear them proudly in terms of the activists at protests. You can hear them proudly espousing their anti-Semitism. And for a lot of people, I have family members asking me over and over again since October 7th, what in the world is going on? This is who they likely have always been. And now they feel, for whatever reason, emboldened to promote it.
You and I have always talked about this, people that come to this country and hate this country and wish the country to be destroyed and take sides with the enemy. And this is one thing where I believe Trump is absolutely correct, and the State Department is absolutely correct. You come into this country temporarily or as a guest, and you're promoting violence and terrorism, and you're supporting the enemy. You don't get it. You don't get to come in. And when you were gone last week, I brought up, and I remember you and I did we looked at the poll that was done of Canada, where Canada said anybody that comes to Canada must have Canadian values.
Right.
Now, what are Canadian values today? And if you looked at, to be fair, if you looked at the Biden administration, when they were in power, what were American values under the Biden administration?
Exactly.
Well, American values was open borders.
Yeah.
American values was anti-Semitism.
Yep.
So a lot of times American values can be determined and judged by who is in what party is in power, at that particular time.
Right.
It can vary widely.
Right.
So, but you look at it, politically, and we hope there was one person in critical condition, and we hope that that they recover. I heard some of the scenes were just horrific.
Yeah.
Of people burning, but politically, this just strengthens everything, because there's no other way to look at this. You can't, if you're going to be a Democrat and get on the air on the all the regular shows tomorrow, you're going to be on MSNBC saying tomorrow, well, American citizens have a greater rate of committing crimes than illegals. Go ahead, try using that.
Yeah, right.
Not going to work.
Right.
As we pointed out many times, if he wasn't here illegally, that wouldn't have happened yesterday.
Right.
Doesn't matter even though the percentages of what they throw out are disputed. Our point is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if American citizens commit violent crimes on a 10-to-1 ratio of somebody who comes here illegally.
Right.
Somebody who's here illegally, if they're not here,
right,
it doesn't happen.
Right.
And you can try to wiggle around that. You can't. By the way, those numbers are wrong. I'm trying to make a hypothetical. I'm trying to make a point based on a hypothetical.
Right.
Even if it was.
Right.
You're not going to win that argument.
Nope. No, you're not. It's absolutely maddening. But again, it should set the tone, set the table. It should give everybody a clear picture as to what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Every time I say it, it has a stronger and stronger meaning. Radicals on one side, everybody else on the other.
Yeah, I remember you said that the show after October 7th.
Yeah.
I remember you said that. You just said there is no middle ground here.
No.
You're either with the terrorists or you're for sanity.
Right.
There really isn't a middle ground here at all.
Right.
None. Zero. But, yeah, it's this really this strengthens, it really weakens Democrats. And it'll be really interesting to see how Democrats approach it this week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're not going to win it.
No.
You cannot win that argument. And it's good. You and I just always love the argument that that the right in this country that supports Israel for the most part. Vast majority on the right, vast majority of Republicans support Israel. That's not the case on the Democrat side. But those are the people the people that support Israel, that support the Jewish state, are vehemently against the anti-Semitism that exists today. They're called the Nazis. Meanwhile, the party of Cory Booker giving Nazi salutes that are anti-Semitic. Oh, my God, that was beautiful.
Oh, my gosh.
That was just absolutely beautiful. I was laughing so hard yesterday, especially the loops that kept playing over and over again.
Yeah, somebody made it into a GIF where it just repeats him doing the salute.
And by the way, that's from the Democrat Standard.
Right.
We're only relating the Democrat Standard. By the Democrat Standard, Cory Booker is a Nazi.
Right. Clearly.
Right, Democrats? By your standard, Cory Booker is a Nazi.
Right.
And that's why Pete Buttigieg has gone to the top of who you believe should run for president for the Democrats in 2028.
That's right.
This is fun.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, latest on the steel deal that was done, and the steel tariffs that are supposed to be coming this week, 50% on that. We'll get to that. Also, the Ukrainian attack on Russian warplanes. Wow.
Yeah.
You were just reading to me some of the stuff there that went on. The very interesting thing is, you would think that this might be something that would drive Trump over the top in anger.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing on True Social since it happened.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder how this was pulled off. Ukraine is claiming it was a year and a half in the making and planning, and the execution of this plan. We'll go into the details coming up, but very interesting how this went down.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Just wanted to do an update because we were talking about it last week when you were gone, and we talked about the U.S. Trade Court and the decision that they made on tariffs. And one thing that I was looking for, besides the rhetoric, besides the president has the ability to do it, was the specifics of the argument from the Trump administration. Closest I got was an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal by someone who helped create it, but still he did the same thing, said the president does have the right. And I read the entire decision from the court the other day. The court never said that the president cannot enact tariffs. They never said it.
Right.
What they said is what the court said is they can't enact it under IEEPA. You could enact it under because remember, the court allowed them to keep the automobile tariffs.
Right.
The steel tariffs that you see now, the automobile parts, the auto parts, the steel and aluminum, they stay. So obviously the court did not say that the president couldn't enact any tariffs. What he said was under the 1962 law in Section 232, that's how much I went through it this weekend, and last week, that's the process to do it. Now, that process, you have to basically designate and say there are unfair trading practices going on. The Commerce Department does an investigation, comes back, with after their investigation, and it takes longer to do. But that's what the court said. Congress gave the authority for the president to do. The only thing that I still don't understand in that court decision is where the court decision said, even under IEEPA, that if it said the president could use tariffs, it said they could control imports and exports, but to me that was like a ban. You can't do that. Not that you could regulate tariffs. But they said even if the president put tariffs, if Congress put tariffs in the IEEPA, that Trump still couldn't use that law to do it because it would be unconstitutional. I never found out where they explained that. And so that's where I found a weakness in the argument from the court. But the Trump administration has been saying the court's saying that Trump can't put on any tariffs. That's not true. Because in the decision, they allowed the steel tariffs, the steel, aluminum, automobile parts to stay because they used Section 232 to do it.
Yeah, when I read the decision when it came down, it seemed to be clear to me. It was the basis of the tariffs, not whether or not he had the authority.
Right. It was the law that they used to do it. And the question was, and it was implied, well, they wanted to expedite it without going through that process.
Right.
And, he wanted to be able to do it now instead of the investigation from the Commerce Department to do it. But it's erroneous to say that the court said he could not, use...
That he has no authority on tariffs. Yeah.
That he has no authority on reciprocal tariffs.
Right.
They didn't say that.
Right.
And that was the implication coming from the Trump administration and many supporters. I'm like, well, that's not what it says. And as I said last week, whether it was the Biden administration doing something, any type of decision that came down from any court during the Biden administration and during the previous Trump administration, we don't use rhetoric. We actually say, I don't care. It may be, well, one was a Reagan judge, one was a Trump. I don't care. What I care about is the constitutional argument.
Right.
And that's what we've always brought to you. And still no one from the administration. Now, the administration sort of admitted it because they said, we're still going to go on. We have other ways to do it, which they do.
Yeah.
Which was the admission, well, we can do it through this process that the court has already de facto approved because they didn't stop the automobile tariffs and the steel and aluminum tariffs. They said, no, you did that properly.
Right.
And so I wanted to clarify that. The other thing is with the 50% tariff going on steel, again, as we've always said, economics decides how far tariffs go. You've seen it so far with the president putting on some tariffs and backing off, and economics matters in it. But just like we saw the steel tariffs, whether it was during the Bush administration, no matter when any type of tariffs are put on, you will have the minutia argument, which is, well, it's not going to cause massive inflation.
Right.
When you increase the cost of along the chain, however it happens, whether it's minimum wage, whether it's tariffs, whether it's increased cost in just general, a lack of supply of materials that you need, or whatever, when you raise the price of anything, and you've raised the price of steel by doing this, you either create inflation, loss of profit for the companies, and or layoffs, or combination of all of the above. That's the reality of it, and that's what we have asked for this administration to be honest about it. There's more than one side than the rah, rah, rah. Okay, the unions are happy. Unions didn't want the deal to be done, and Trump put the increased it by 25% to please the unions. But as we saw with the last steel tariffs, roughly they're still in the steel fabricating business. Remember, you protect one business and you hurt all other businesses that use that product.
Right.
And those are American businesses that you hurt. And they leave that out of the equation, and that's not being intellectually honest with the American people. And that's all we're asking for.
Well, you're picking winners and losers.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
And that's what we have seen before. We've seen what had happened during the Bush steel tariffs. We saw it again with the first Trump term. And I really think that they're going for, on every tariff level, they're looking for that, or they believe they've found that tariff Laffer curve. That we can do this without, because the president has already said it, there will be some pain. The question is, politically, how much pain can you get away with? And that's what they're trying to, I think, mitigate right now.
And by the way, why can Trump do this but not the other tariffs? As they write right here in the Wall Street Journal, enter Trump's new tariff lifeline by doubling his Section 232 steel tariffs to 50%.
Right.
And he said to higher tariffs walls because, Cleveland Cliffs wanted to buy them. And this keeps them from doing it, and they've been having some trouble. They go, but the higher tariff rates may help Cleveland Cliffs staunch its red ink, but they are likely to save or create jobs. They will raise costs to steel consumers, including automakers and machinery manufacturers, and could boomerang. His first term steel and aluminum tariffs caused prices to rise for a period, but higher prices hurt consumers and caused demand to fall.
Right.
Federal Reserve Board of Governors study estimated that the tariffs cost 75,000 manufacturing jobs. Employment in fabricated metals manufacturing is still some 33% lower than when the tariffs took effect. So you can help one business, but when you raise the cost of doing business, you hurt every American manufacturer down the line that uses any steel for construction or whatever, machinery or whatever. And all we want is intellectual honesty. If you believe you need it because you want a steel industry for the security of the United States, say it. But don't say everything is roses when we do it, because American manufacturers down the line who use steel will suffer because of it.
Yeah, there's going. Look, raw materials has been. We've seen this play out before, especially when it comes to steel. And we saw it during the Bush tariffs. We saw companies that said, "Well, then we'll have to go somewhere else to make our product." You know, this is just that's going to be the reality. And in this case, with other tariffs being imposed, those companies then have fewer options. Okay, if they can't move, they lay off. If they can't make a profit, they're gone. And again, if you're talking about, I don't know, countless jobs being lost here, what are we doing? If you're going to, if your position is, yeah, there's going to be pain, but this is a national security issue that must be resolved, then say it and stick to it.
Yeah.
Don't paint it. Don't try and put lipstick on it.
Yeah. And the opinions, this opinion that we bring up here is only based on the observation of the reality of economics. If you raise the cost anywhere along, whoever raises the cost, whatever the reason is, you get one of three things or a combination of all. Increased prices, less profits for companies, layoffs.
Right.
That's simple.
Right.
And I want intellectual honesty from the Republican Party. That's what I want.
Yep.
That's what we're looking
because
for. Be honest with the American people.
Inevitably in a free market, there's going to be the adjustment, again, as you put it, whatever the reason behind the increased costs. And if it's raw materials or whatever costs along the way, getting that product or service to the market. In a free market society, you're going to have to compete, which means, because you see a lot of this too, well, see, they already say they're absorbing some of the costs. Well, you still have to remain competitive. You can only do that to a certain extent before you have to create greater efficiencies to make up for that loss.
Right. Well, that would be
that's
laying
people off.
That's one of the three. When you say companies absorb it, they absorb it with less of a profit margin.
Exactly. And so it inevitably is the first thing they look to do. How much of this can we take on before we have to decide where we're going to, how many people are going to be unemployed in our company? And those are the efficiencies that have to be created. And those are the adjustments. I think right now, the uncertainty comes from where the tariffs have been. All right, they're on. Oh, right, they're not on.
Well, the court, depending on how, as I said last week, the court, depending on how long this plays out, is also causing uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because people like, well, we don't know now what's going on. We don't know what the courts are going to rule.
That's what you saw over the last few days on the markets. It's nobody knows where this is going to land, but also nobody knows where the administration is going to land ultimately. The one thing that again, if you're trying to create efficiencies within your operation, within your company, and you go to layoffs, we've seen this before too. You decide, okay, ahead of this, I'm going to buy as much raw material or whatever. I'm going to stock up to make sure that I can make a profit for as long as possible. And then all of a sudden you put a bunch of cash into that, and then something changes, and the tariffs aren't realized, and you're stuck with a bulk ton of raw materials or whatever it might be.
And this will eventually get to the Supreme Court, and I'm not sure, as I said the other day, I'm not sure where they're going to rule because the EPA law states that part of what you can do to strike back is, limiting imports and or exports. But it doesn't say specifically tariffs, and the court pointed that out,
right.
that means, well, you can stop or just say no more imports or exports. We're not going to do this in order to punish you, but that doesn't relate to tariffs. And part of the defense of that has been the EPA decision from the Supreme Court that you cannot, you're there to get pollution. You just can't say CO2, therefore is pollution, and ban it. Congress has to specifically say that. So I'm not sure how the Supreme Court's going to rule on it.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty wide
open.
Or
will the Supreme Court say, well, no, if you can control imports or exports, obviously that means tariffs. I don't know if they're going to say that or they're going to be, because that was the argument that Democrats were making. Well, we want to control pollution. Everybody knows CO2 is a pollutant. They're like, no, Congress has to say it is.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see where this all goes.
Yeah, it will.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one-truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. It's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I just want to give an update on this because I saw it over the weekend. Because you and I talked about oil prices and going down, and we got a call I don't know a little while ago. Somebody called and said yes, but gas prices are now heading down to $50 per barrel, and we went, well, the American oil industry doesn't want that to happen. You want it to stay above $60 because they're starting to cut back. And you have to understand, because of everything, and you include inflation in it, everything to make oil and natural gas has gone up in price. The manufacturing process has skyrocketed just like everything else over the last 5 years. But oil and gas drilling activity in the United States is currently declining, with rig counts hitting their lowest level since 2021. The slowdown is primarily attributed to lower oil prices and a focus on shareholder returns by energy companies rather than increased production, which was a big duh. And you and I asked the question when OPEC decided, and it starts June, to increase and open the taps, was that done in an effort to help or to help, from their point of view, help decrease American production and investment so America can't control more of the oil market worldwide?
Well, I think certainly in, right now, the midst of this trade war, these OPEC member nations want to flex a little bit and show how much control they have over what can be done domestically and what that does for domestic production and everything else. And the Trump trip to the Middle East was important because of Iran. How much actually gets done in terms of, I guess, overall what changes in the marketplace will be interesting to watch. They did have a business summit while they were over there, but the OPEC member nations don't pay attention to stuff like that. They don't let anything like that guide them. They're always looking to, I think, manipulate and control which, by the way, is every reason we need to drill, baby, drill. But the problem is, again, if you can't be profitable in that domestically, then you're not going to do it. You're going to shut down. We're seeing that with the rig count dropping right now.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Before we get to the Ukrainian attack on those Russian warplanes, a little bit of Scotch onions here, okay?
All right.
I think
Yeah.
this is from Friday. And he's got Representative Dingell from Michigan's on there. She's on there with him, and this is just greatness. It really is. It's just, why I'm playing this? Because we were going to go to that discussion on Ukraine, and we will in just a second. For my entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, why not? It's Monday.
I want to entertain myself.
Throw it in.
Here it is. Okay, all right.
Democrats have to stop being against Donald Trump and start being for something.
I'll defend the Democrats. They are for things. Illegal aliens. You're for boys and girls sports. I mean, you are for things. And that's why you have such struggles right now in your party, because you're not for anything that's on the right side of any of the 80-20 issues that are driving this cultural divide in America. I think Wes Moore's actually a pretty talented communicator. The other person who spoke in South Carolina, Tim Walz, is this special mixture of extreme buffoonery and a mean spirit, which is a toxic brew. He is not the future of the Democratic Party. Moore is interesting. Probably more interesting than some of the radicals you have out there, Crockett, AOC. I mean, those are the true leaders of your party right now, but you'd probably be better off replacing them with
That's not true, and I'm not going to even let you.
That's not true. And
Well, they are. They are the leaders of your party.
Yeah, they are.
By the way, they get more press from the legacy leftist media.
Right. Yeah.
Wes Moore from Maryland can come out and say a couple of things, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe some Democrats willing to moderate. They don't want to hear that.
No.
And we've said this where Democrats say we need to stand for something more than just being anti-Trump. You do stand for something. Where you stand on the issues is where you stand for something. And you stand for open borders. You stand for anti-Semitism. You stand for the racism of identity politics. You stand for the misogyny, the hatred of women in the radical transgender movement. And we could go on and on and on and on. But those things right there are massive. As Trump said, it was a couple weeks ago, they're not 80-20 issues. They're 97-3 issues.
Well, it's true. You've got Democrats in states that are fighting for the rights, for what they call rights, for children to decide on mutilation surgery. And threatening parents, saying, we'll come after you for abuse if you disagree with your children. That's your party. That's what's going on officially. That's what you're actually legally fighting for. Those are real things.
Had an interesting discussion with my great-nephew. My great-nephew now is 16. And God help the roads. He has his learner's permit.
Mhm.
But he, it's just a ball of questions because he knows what I do for a living. So ball of questions on everything. And he says, I know I can ask you, and if I disagree with you, you won't get mad at me. And he we got into the discussion.
Did you tell him to shut up? No.
Yeah, I told him, shut up. You're just a kid. I'm the adult. I know what I'm talking about. Don't you realize I'm one of the elite media people? How dare you?
How dare you?
Oh, by the way, you can check out his golf swing on my Facebook page.
Oh, cool.
It's really improving.
Oh, that's great.
And by the way, if I'm going to keep instructing him for a little bit before we decide whether he's really interested to get him a better teacher than me. But the swing you see and him hitting the ball straight on my Facebook page is all due to him.
All right.
Well, excuse me, all due to me. Due to him. And
you take all the credit.
No, and it's due to him too for following my instructions. But we got in, to the the radical transgender movement and whether a man can be a woman, whatever. And when I got to the part about minors, that Democrats want minors to be able to, cut off their own body parts. It's like, no way, that can't be happening. I said, yeah, it is. That's what they believe.
Yeah, they're legally fighting for
And
those
he's like,
rights.
well, that's absolutely crazy, Uncle Gary. And I went, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And, I've always said this, whether it was, any of my nieces and nephews, my great nephew, my nephew who was, my nephew Mark that I've talked about, is the father of, my great nephew Mackay. And, we had those conversations way, 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 back. 30 years ago, I had him with my nephew when I was doing local talk and somebody called me a racist on, because if you take a position they don't like, you're a racist. I'll never forget how furious he was. Said, how can they call you a racist? It's like, how come you don't get angrier? Like, well, we're used to it. But I've always told any of the young people, do not believe what I believe because I'm your uncle and you like me in some ways or love me, whatever. Do not make your judgment. You come to your own conclusion. You ask me questions. I'll explain to you in detail why I believe what you believe. If you believe there's a better argument, embrace it, and you can bring it back, and we can have the discussion on it. And any of them that have talked politics with me always feel comfortable, doing it, which is what I think is a healthy thing. But and I told him, I said, there are things that the party that I support more, which is Republicans, do that I disagree with. I go, what I will, and I said, so I'm not going to defend something I don't agree with, but as you know, your great uncle is always right.
Yes, of course.
So
Just the way it works.
I got a laugh out of that one. He laughed. He was like,
Yeah, probably still laughing.
But it's just
that's who
when
this is who the Democrats are. This is they'll sit there and try and soften it up. Oh, well, that's not what's going. That's not happening. That's not. All you have to do is read, any story, anything about what's going on today, and you see the truth. That's the other thing. It's not just the 80-20 or 97-3 part of that whole aspect of the the story itself, the entire topic or issue. It's how much it's being talked about. It's everywhere. So Democrats these days trying to ignore that, trying to pretend like nobody else is talking about it, because that's what they want you to believe. Everything with Biden and his cognitive issues. Oh, he's fine. He's fine. He's fine. And now the left is going, oh, we can't believe we didn't see it. They saw it.
Yeah, they saw it. Yeah.
And on the 97.3 issues, they're looking at this and going, oh, well, that's not really happening. That's not really happening. Everybody's like, no, I'm seeing the stories that are going viral. I see it. I know what's going on. They want you to believe that you should only listen to what they're saying in the moment. as if the internet doesn't exist, as if your eyes aren't seeing what they're seeing.
The space-time continuum doesn't exist.
Exactly. Because they operated that way for the longest time. Remember when Obama was giving that commencement speech, basically telling those graduates, don't go out there and, look at the computer or nothing. Don't get into computers. Don't be Googling anything. You don't want to get all smart. You don't want to learn anything.
Oh, God.
And that's their attitude. You should know only what we tell you and only in the moment. They live in the bubble of the moment because they can't really sit and have a conversation on the issues long form. It destroys them every time. Well, reality is what really destroys them. And the reality of all these issues is everywhere. And people see it every day. They see it every day. Oh, it's not what's going on. When the liberal activist media, in the response to the terrorist attack in Boulder yesterday, was basically trying to soften it in the headlines, and people were reading the stories from all the different... I think people are very savvy in terms of being able to get the story. If they have the will or not is the question. And we found out in November of 24, they do have the will to be informed to a certain degree, and hopefully that continues today. I'm confident that more and more people look at, especially a story like what broke over the weekend, the terrorist attack in Boulder, and they want to know what was going on. They want to know what happened, what this person did. And trying to soften it in the headlines is insane.
Let me play something for you since you brought that up. This is former FBI Director Andrew McCabe. The headline is "Disgraced Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe after this thing hit," about the FBI, because the FBI came out early and said, we believe this is a targeted terrorist attack, which all evidence shows that. What's the evidence? The guy, screaming "Free Palestine."
Right.
If that's not an indicator.
Right.
But here he is on CNN.
This is the sort of thing that the FBI really can help out a local police department with, providing manpower, technology, and resources to do that sort of work. That's what the FBI does. We don't step in and take over and draw conclusions 5 minutes after the attack about what happened. We reach out to the local authorities, we provide people, and we offer assistance in any way that we can. The Bureau is there to help the first responders.
The conclusion was pretty easy to understand, and I don't know if the timeline was 5 minutes or 50 minutes. But when it first came out, everything that the FBI came out with is accurate. From all the information that we know is accurate. Andrew McCabe, wrong again. As if the FBI saying, well, it was pretty easy to figure this one out. It's a pro-hostages rally, and somebody comes and starts setting people on fire and screaming "Free Palestine." It's not the fact that he is against the University of Colorado football team.
Right.
It's pretty obvious.
Right.
There are some things that aren't tough to figure out, and so when it came out, it looks like this is a targeted attack. Is what a targeted terrorist attack. They are right. There is nothing since it has happened that
has countered that.
Yeah.
There's no information that's countered that.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No.
None.
And Mr. McCabe, that might have been the problem with the FBI back when you were deputy director.
Right.
Is the fact that the obvious that existed out there, you just didn't want to see it.
Well, it's this mindset of just being blind and wanting to paint this ambiguous picture on everything and set this ambiguous tone. You might as well write the headline, "Something happened in a certain state." I mean, that's how ridiculous it's become. It's was joking with a friend over the weekend.
Something happened in a certain state.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about the TV show CSI Miami, where the lead detective, would always take off his glasses in a certain way. What we have here is a murder, and it's like if I was on a scene like that, it would be, you really think so, murder police? I mean, the guy with a knife in his back that's laying on the ground? It feels like the liberal activist media in situations like this is always trying to, what we may have here is an incident. And soft walk this.
Did they really make him, was it in the script, you need to not just take the glasses off, but tilt your head?
Right, yeah.
He's got the tilt of
and
the head.
And he'd always turn kind of sideways, and, Yeah, you go do something else for a living. People in the media need to do the same thing, by the way.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, we'll get to the Ukrainian attack on those Russian warplanes, because you're just wondering, what in the world happened here?
Mm-hmm.
How did this operation, how did it succeed like it did? We'll get to that. Plus, Tim Walz communicating to the American public that the reason the Democrats are failing is that they've been too nice to Donald Trump.
Yeah, right. That's how this whole happened. Yeah.
They need to be meaner.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, and a wonderful good morning to you.
Happy Monday.
Welcome to June. Jeez.
Yeah, here we are.
As I told you, what I like productivity and efficiency. I'm driven by that, and I was telling you during the break, I went, all right, I got rain last night. Every time I get rain, it means, and we don't have temperatures in the 100s, but every time we get rain, it's like, I don't have to even look at watering my lawn for another week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, looks like more rain coming later on this week. I can extend it, and I'm in that mode now, June, July, and August.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to use my own water. I don't want to use water. I don't want to use water.
It's great.
I can afford it, but it's like, I still don't want to use it.
Yeah, it's really great.
So...
we have hundreds of tomatoes on our vines right now. I mean, just
hundreds.
Hundreds.
Did you give them away? You eat them all? Family?
We eat all we can. Kids get some.
Can?
We're going to can some. We're going to make sauce. We're going to make everything. We've got every variety of tomato. The Romas are really, really popping. Cherry tomatoes. Beefsteak tomatoes. It's just crazy right now how great it is. And we figured out the water problem. We figured out what was going on with our crop before was that the water from our city has way too much chlorine. And did a couple of things, put an RV filter on my hose in the backyard, but more importantly, installed a bunch of rain barrels. And we use the rainwater primarily. I haven't run out of rainwater yet. At some point, I'm sure, typically, the rain slows down. But it doesn't take but one good rain shower to fill a rain barrel for us, the way I've got it rigged up. And it's a number of 50 and 100-gallon barrels, but the whole system itself works very, very well. But the water was the key to us. Also, the balance of the soil and everything else. My wife does a ton of research on all of that. And it's kind of years in the making. We've never had anything this close. Last year was good. This year's unbelievable. Awesome. I mean, it's just great. Yeah.
Yeah, and every time it rains, that means I don't have to put water in the pool.
Yeah.
I love free water from nature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This has been the Home Efficiency and Vegetable Garden Report.
That's right.
On Red Eye Radio.
I'm going to make a tomato sandwich here in about 3 hours. True story.
You really?
I am. Right when I get home.
So tomatoes on tomato on bread. That's
Tomatoes on bread, maybe a little mayonnaise or sauce. I'll figure something out on the sauce. It depends on what I feel like. My wife will put spicy mustard on hers. I'll go with sometimes mayo or make my own sauce.
If you said tomatoes and pickles, I was going to ask whether
no,
you are the first pregnant male. But
yeah, no, don't do pickles on it. It's got to be tomatoes, but I go big on the tomatoes though. It's not just one layer of slices, and that's where you've really got to have the good bread, or you've got to have you can use like the bread for Subway sandwiches or something. You can use something different to make sure that it holds together, right? It's got to be able to handle that much tomato, and they're unbelievably great. I mean, they taste so much better than store-bought. So much better.
All right, so the Ukrainian attack.
Oh, wow, thing.
Here's a question that I have.
Yeah?
Why do they volunteer so much information after an operation like this?
That is a good question, because there's a lot of information coming out about this attack. Now, different sources like the Associated Press has one source, an inside source there from that they say is a military official from Ukraine who spoke to the AP on the condition of anonymity, and talked about how long this attack took, and it was over a year and a half, according to that source. But how it was all implemented. So they hid these drones in these wooden houses, and they were able to get them deep inside Russian territory. And again, according to the source, the operation had been headquartered out of an office which was right next to the local FSB headquarters in Russia. The FSB is the Russia Intelligence and Security Service. It would what used to be called the KGB. Basically, it was the KGB back in the day, and after the fall of the Soviet Union, the FSB. So according to this source, they were able to pull this off almost literally right under, in terms of the planning, right under their noses in Russia.
When I read here from the Wall Street Journal, Ukrainian intelligence officials said the agency moved the small quadcopter drones to Russian territory.
Yeah.
It then moved wooden containers to Russia, which were used to hide the drones ahead of the attack. When it came time to strike, the containers were placed on trucks, and the lids of the containers were open remotely, and the swarm of drones flew out to find their targets. This is like an alien movie.
Yeah, that's what the Associated Press version calls those containers homes. I don't know if their tiny home trend is going on in Russia or not, but yeah. And then the Russian army was looking to basically try and stop the launch of these drones by jumping onto the truck that had some of these wooden containers or homes or houses or whatever they are, and they were unsuccessful. But again, destroying more than 40 planes deep inside Russia's territory.
So the question that everybody is asking is, was there Russian help inside of Russia to do that? It's just a question. Nobody has the evidence doesn't exist yet, but that's a question. How did this happen? The one question I had, why has Trump been so quiet on it? I went through social media an hour ago on True Social. He never wrote about it. You would think this would be something that would outrage Trump, saying Zelensky wants this war to continue. He doesn't want peace. You didn't get that rant from True Social.
No, because the talks are supposed to continue in a matter of hours.
In fact, they're there now.
Yeah.
Ukraine's there now to continue. And then, as we know, Russia struck back.
Mm-hmm.
It was a missile attack that they had.
Right.
But
yeah, I think the meeting starts any time now, right?
Yeah. Well, if
it happens,
if the Russians are there.
Well, and I was waiting for that announcement to happen. That, it's been called off. It's not going to happen, but it could be that just Russia just doesn't show.
I want to see military experts, because what I'm wondering is this so simple that the Russians couldn't pick up on it because you were basically just using boxes and trucks, and the drones aren't huge drones.
Right.
These aren't, because the first thing I thought of is that they're flying, the big, like, American Russian drones and fly at 60,000 feet.
Yeah, which would have to be
the massive
predators
drones.
that are weaponized, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I first thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, completely different. These are smaller drones that have explosives or whatever attached to them that destroy. And I've seen some of the drones, and you can see them destroying, the planes, however they were doing it. And it was just, I went, because the first thing I say, is this a multi-nation attack? Was the United States involved in it? Because when Trump was so quiet on this, it was like, okay, and it's like, well, the United States didn't know about it. And then I'm thinking, well, if the United States was a part of it, it would be perfect for Trump to come out and then scream at Ukraine, right?
Right.
Yet at the same time being a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the claim is, the United States isn't saying, United States, we had no idea they were going to do it. There was no warning, to the U.S. Now, did the CIA know it?
I have to believe Intel knew that it was certainly, if it is accurate and true that this is a year and a half in the executing of this plan, then you would have to think that the CIA was aware of it. But again, if you're talking, these were brought in very stealth fashion. How does that happen? I want to know more details of them in these wooden containers, or as they say, houses in the, maybe there's something, by the way, lost in translation when they say houses, because if something houses something, well, this is housed here or housed. I was thinking tiny homes, because they talked about the roof of that. They actually said, well, then the roofs of the houses were taken off and the drones flew out. And I'm like, all right, but why are there a bunch of tiny houses on trucks? But however that played out.
If I get a tiny home where the roof opens up and drones come out to protect my property, I don't need a gun.
Right, exactly.
I want that tiny home.
And does Amazon sell these? And, you're thinking of, all right, let's go back even further. How does that happen, right? How do they get all of these drones, which have to be armed and ready? And they said the roofs of the containers came off remotely. Yeah. I mean, I'm really, really, really intrigued as to how they pulled that up.
Does that mean that whoever did it was hundreds of miles away? And what's the technology in order to open those roofs and controlled the drones, or were the drones controlled, right near where the trucks were?
Right.
Because there's 4 different locations that this happened, apparently.
Yeah. The military source, this from the AP, the military source said it was an extremely complex operation involving the smuggling of first-person view, or FPV, drones to Russia, where they were placed in mobile wooden houses. Quote, later, drones were hidden under roofs of these houses, while already placed on trucks. At the right moment, the roofs of the houses were remotely opened, and the drones flew to hit the Russian bombers.
This is a Trojan horse.
Yeah, I mean, why didn't you use wooden horses? Is the question. I mean,
it's a Trojan horse.
I guess that would be too obvious, right?
Right.
All these giant wooden horses coming in from Ukraine. What's going on with that?
All the drones are in the horses.
Should we look into that? Again, how you make that happen is fascinating story. The Security Service of Ukraine said the operation, which it codenamed Web, had destroyed 34% of Russia's fleet of air missile carriers, with damages estimated at $7 billion. Those claims, of course, couldn't be independently verified, but the ability to reach well into Russian territory isn't new on individual hits. 2 top military officials for Russia killed clearly by Ukraine in recent months, and now this.
The thing I'm thinking of is if the United States had nothing to do with it, as the United States is claiming, and so is Ukraine, that we didn't inform the United States of it at all. I mean, that's what they're saying on the record. Is it what is the reason that Trump was particularly quiet on this over the weekend? Is because he views now Russia is the problem. That Ukraine, he believes he can get, if Russia will come to the table, well, Russia won't come to the table, therefore, because clearly his attitude of Russia has changed in the last week.
Yeah, based on what he's saying.
Exactly.
Has.
So is this why he's quiet? Is he saying, look, this is what can happen, and if we decide to help, it'll even be worse for you. Why don't you come and sit down at the table? Again, this is pure speculation on my part, but I was very amazed how quiet the president was on this, because normally, if this was a month ago, he'd be railing at Zelensky. This warmonger wants to keep it going. He doesn't want peace as much as Putin, and nothing.
Well, and I also have to wonder, did Ukraine have some help from the inside on Russia?
In Russia, yeah, that's the other thing. That's a complete opposite thing, was who's helping them inside of Russia to do this.
Right. It sounds highly sophisticated, but if it took a year and a half to pull this thing off, and it happened this deep inside Russian territory, I just don't know how they do it without help from outside sources.
Well, the thing is, if you do something like this, do you want it to take a year and a half to do? Do you have that kind of time to look at it? I mean, is that false to begin with? Were they able to do this much quicker?
Right.
I mean, how much is disinformation that they're throwing out?
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that's
all the information we're getting is from Ukraine, whether it's an anonymous source or their official sources. It's all coming from the Ukraine side. So, yeah, that could be propaganda in and of itself.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. By the way, thanks. Somebody sent to us, let me see, Trump addressed our position, and he sends me a Truth Social from the 25th.
Yeah. That was before the drone attacks.
Yeah, we're not talking about what the position has been of the president in the past on Zelensky versus Putin. We're talking specifically about the strike.
Right.
Just so you know.
Yeah, we were referring to in this, and when we were talking about his position on Putin, that has clearly changed, and part of it was that Truth Social post from the 25th.
Right.
He's clearly, changed. He said, something's gone, something's happened, and now he's crazy.
Yeah, which we said within the last week. It's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the good thing is Elon Musk is up and reposted that post.
Not the real Elon Musk. It's a guy with 10 followers. He's just a fan
is
of
it
Elon
okay?
Musk.
I just saw Elon Musk reposted a post.
Yeah, no.
So can somebody take my name?
They could, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you checked that out. You saw the Elon Musk thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
there,
I knew the profile picture wasn't right.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell. It's too small for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the profile picture.
Yeah, there's probably, I don't know, a million Elon Musk, maybe more
so
accounts out there. So, yeah, not him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out. We likely will never find out how that all went down. I have a hard time believing Zelensky pulled that off on his own.
117 drones is what they claim.
Yeah. And also the strategy of getting those drones to their target and pulling that off. In every single aspect of this, it reeks of help from the outside or inside.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm just sorry. As I'm scanning through social media, I just keep seeing the Cory Booker. By Democrat standards, remember, this is all Democrat standards here.
Right.
Looking at Cory Booker and his Nazi salute.
Yeah, you said Bookie. You mean Booker, right?
Did I say Bookie?
I don't know. What does he do on the weekend? I don't know.
Did I say Bookie?
I'm betting.
I said Bookie?
I'm betting that you did.
Booker.
Yeah.
Maybe I was thinking of Cory and Booker, and it came out Bookie. I don't know. But Cory Booker with his Nazi salute by Democrat standards.
Yep.
We want to make this clear.
Right.
He is a Nazi.
That's right.
Because the Democrats told me he is.
Right.
They have communicated in the past that if you do that, irrespective of the context, you are a Nazi.
Yep.
Thank you, Democrats, for clarifying that Cory Booker is a Nazi by Democrat standards.
Yeah. Look, we don't make the rule book.
No.
They do.
Yes.
So talk to them about it.
All right, so the whole California track state championship over the weekend. Oh, my gosh. The Democrats are still trying. They're nuts. They're absolutely crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, but when you're this delusional, you're crazy.
Yeah.
First, I want to play. This was make sure I have the right one here. This is Julie Hamill, president of the California Justice Center, talking with. I can't think of her name here. Brianna. I can't think of her name. I'll have it here in a second. But on CNN about the California State Track and Field Finals, where they changed the rules a little bit. Where if you were defeated by a man, you could still participate in it, and men would still compete against women, but would be put in a separate category, but would stand on the podium with the women together, sharing the woman's trophy. I mean, my God, they're trying to parse this thing. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Right.
And this is Judy Hamill with, I can't think of her name. But here it is, the back and forth on CNN, which is just nuts. Right, here we go.
To comply with federal law to accept federal funds.
What would make this fair for her to compete for those who are competing against her? What would that kind of structure in competition look like?
Who is her?
AB.
Okay, A.B. Hernandez is a male who identifies as a female. What would be fair is to have Hernandez competing in the male category. It is not fair to the females competing to have to compete with a male.
Okay, so in Trump's federal funding threat, is that something, though, that would hurt all student athletes, including athletes who are assigned female at birth?
Would his federal funding threat hurt athletes?
If the money is taken away.
Right. So the law actually says that schools that do not abide Title IX or other federal laws cannot receive federal funds. So that's not Trump's fault. The problem is that the state with AB 1266.
But you understand, Julie, there's two views here on Title IX. So just to be clear, not everyone agrees with you on how you're viewing it. So in that regard, if you were to take away the funding on as it pertains to trans athletes, not everyone agrees with you. I think we just have to be clear about that. If you are taking away the funds for athletes, student athletes in California, isn't that going to hurt all of them?
Taking away federal funds is going to hurt all California kids, which is why the state of California needs to comply with federal law. It's very simple.
So when you dig into the science on trans athletes, what is really clear is that there needs to be a lot more research on a lot more trans athletes to be able to draw better conclusions about the effect of whether gender-affirming care actually reduces or eliminates the advantage conferred on an athlete who is genetically male. Would you welcome more research? Is this a situation where more research might help?
I absolutely think that more research and more careful and thoughtful discussion is necessary here. Pediatric sex change procedures are very harmful and they cause lifelong damage to children. And this is something that the United States of America needs to examine thoughtfully, and people need to be able to discuss openly without being called bigots and transphobes.
Yeah, totally hear you. There are obviously clear benefits to playing sports, to competing in sports. So when you're looking at an athlete like A.B. Hernandez, what would you have her do so that she can benefit from sporting?
I view A.B. Hernandez as the victim in this situation. I feel for him, and I feel that he has been lied to for his entire life, and it's probably very destabilizing and difficult for him right now to realize that what he's been told is not actually reality. He cannot become a girl. What he can do is compete in the male category.
Okay,
or
let's stick to sports. So you say compete in the male category, or what?
Or if the state and CIF want to create a separate category for people like A.B. Hernandez, and that's something that they want to do, fine. It is not fair to female athletes who have worked their entire lives for this kind of competition, who also, by the way, cannot speak out for fear of retaliation, which A.B. Hernandez's mother has personally threatened against them. So it's very unfair for our girls and women in California to have to compete with males, have to share facilities with males, and then not be able to speak up about the unfairness because people are going to label them as bigots.
I just love how and it was Brianna Keeler. She asked one question, and the guest, Julie Hamill, takes it in a completely different way than the way that the question is being asked. But I just love it when she said, well, because Trump is cutting the funds, everybody's hurt. Well, yeah, because they're not abiding by the rules of Title IX.
California needs to abide by the rules.
Right. California needs to abide by the rules. Now, the other thing is, too, when it comes to Title IX. Title IX was clear when it came out. It was biological women is what they were talking about. Everybody knows it.
Right.
Obama changed it. Obama is the one that has the warped beliefs that a male can be a female. He also has the belief that you can be whatever race you want. He said that in a closing discussion interview that you and I remember when he left in December of 2016. I believe it was with The Atlantic when they asked him, well, you're mixed. Why do you say that you're black? And he said, because I've come to realize that race is a social construct. Yeah, so he has these warped beliefs. You can be whatever race you want. You can be whatever sex you want. And, of course, it's a warped, bizarre, untrue version that is not based on any science whatsoever.
Right.
And so it's amazing the way that they keep wanting to debate this. And I want to get to the part where you've got this is on CNN also, and it was Scott Jennings talking about it here. This is great. Here we go. Scott Jennings and this. I mean, they're nuts. I'm sorry, they're crazy.
Yep.
Here we go.
Science behind this hasn't been studied enough or talked about enough for us to make a real full opinion. I do agree girls' sports are for girls.
You said this hasn't been studied enough to know that, look, we've got millions of years of study. Men and women are different, and that's why it's unfair to put boys in girls' sports. We don't need to have any more biological studies. It is fundamentally unfair.
But do you see, genuinely curious, any accommodations that are reasonable? You have a 16-year-old who wants to participate in sports. In your mind, is there any way that can happen that is fair?
Of course.
How?
Have the people participate with their own biological sex. Boys in boys sports, girls in girls sports. It's worked for a very long time in this country.
But it's not that simple anymore, Scott. That's where we are. So what do you do when it's not
80% of the country?
But it's not that anymore. So what do you do with the 20%? Do we ignore them?
Yeah,
do
pretty
we
much.
Look at it,
I mean, it's an 80-20 issue.
Scott, everybody's ignoring that.
And you just said it was a minuscule number.
It's
if it's minuscule,
why
do we have to upend?
We don't have to. The reason why I said it was a minuscule number, Scott, was because I don't think it's fair that you're scaring people at home thinking that boys are trying to compete in girls sports by the droves and that this is going to take over, and you were scaring people at home. It's just not happening, Scott.
It's not.
But it is happening because men are winning state women's championships.
Well, that's it.
God,
they want you to believe. Again, just what I said a little while ago. It's not happening. It's no big deal. Don't believe what your eyes are seeing. Don't believe what you're reading. Don't believe the reality. They do this over and over again. It's not that big of a deal. You're like changing. You're eliminating Title IX and going back to that previous conversation of the back and forth. Well, you understand that some people disagree with how you feel on Title IX and what Title IX is. No. I know that there is a gross misinterpretation and application of Title IX, which leads to its ultimate downfall. And that's exactly what's going on. And it started with the Obama administration, because if anyone can belong to a protected class, including if you talk about the protections outlined by Title IX, anyone can belong to a protected class simply by saying so.
It's time now.
There are no protected classes, and they're eliminating Title IX. That's what I understand.
But it's also time for Scott Jennings and other people to do what Riley Gaines is doing, which is start pounding on them and saying, you're a bunch of women haters. You're a bunch of misogynists.
Right.
That's what you are. The intimidation, the threatening. You talk about, the young men involved in it and how they're being led by the left, which is absolutely reprehensible, because you and I talked about this when we talked about the Josh Hawley back and forth with the Berkeley professor, where he was asking, if she said, well, do you believe men can get pregnant? He goes, well, no. Well, see, you're a transphobe. Well, what do you mean I'm a transphobe? I can't talk about this? Well, don't you understand that the percentage of transgenders committing suicide is way greater than the normal population? It's like, so what you're saying is You're not saying it's true. You're saying if I don't agree with it, these people will commit suicide because I disagree with their opinion. Well, that means they need a lot of mental health, and you're saying the solution is to let to let men compete against women and let children cut off their private parts. I mean, it's absolutely insane, and that you need to pound on the immorality and how evil these people are by promoting this kind of thing.
Well, it's when they believe that they're arguing with the right, they believe they're debating the right, they're taking on the parents, and now they're taking on these female athletes who more and more are taking a stand, which is great. Thanks to a large extent to people like Riley Gaines, who stood up for other female athletes. And it's, Title IX didn't look to protect most women in women's sports. This insane argument, it's not that big of a deal. It's not happening in that many cases. Title IX didn't say, we'll let this happen. We're going to just protect most women. We're not going to protect,
right.
All women, just most women. There's not an 80-20 ratio or quota there as outlined by Title IX. Title IX is very clear. 0 men in women's sports. 0.
And I love where she said, well, things are different now. Why? Because people have delusional thoughts and they're able to promote them more?
Because the left keeps repeating it?
Right. Because you keep repeating something that's completely false and wrong?
This delusional world that you live in, you want it to become reality.
Yeah.
We know how different your side is. The American people don't see it that way.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Tim Wall's on the attack again. I'm telling you, I was so happy to see that story over the weekend. We will get to that. The latest poll on Democrats, still holding on to the insane positions that they have, and they wonder why their approval ratings are down, extremely low. In fact, CNN doing the latest poll on that, and so we'll get to that. I'm really amazed, though, how the left is still trying to some way justify the radical transgender movement.
Yeah.
Well, we need to make accommodations. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Play with the boys.
Yeah.
Because the
Real
one
simple.
thing the radical transgender movement is not going to be happy with is the fact that you separate them and put them into their own category.
Right.
That's not what it's about.
Right. No.
The whole thing, and we'll explain more coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. As always. Just getting back to it was just amazing how it just popped up again and became such a huge issue over the weekend. When you figure, okay, this thing is, this issue is dead and buried, it comes back up again because of the California, female track championships and the justification again. And when we were watching CNN, they're saying, well, what type of accommodation do you make? Well, you can play men's sports. You're a biological man. You play against biological men. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, but things are different now. What do you mean things are different now? Well, people think differently. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, whether people think differently, it's whether what they think, if it's based in reality or not. It doesn't matter what people think. Yeah, but 20% of the people, you're saying 80-20, 80-20, you need to make accommodations. What would the accommodations that you would make would be? And you have the left talking about it, and even the one woman who was just went after Brianna Keeler on CNN. Even she said, well, maybe they could have their own group. They don't want their own group.
That's not what they're asking for.
It's not what we have followed this from the very, very beginning. This was an issue that first came out. It started coming out in the early 70s, and when we first started talking about this, when this became an issue, good God, almost a half a century ago, it started out, well, no, if you're a biological male who thinks you're a female, then you're a female. Then it got reversed because they couldn't defend that. And you would bring it up over the next 30 years, you'd bring it up and you'd say, well, wait a minute, no, we're not saying that we're saying this is gender. I go, what's gender? Well, gender is what you think you are. No, gender for the history of the world meant sex.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're changing it. Gender is different than sex. We're simply saying you respect their gender because they believe this, and gender is not sex. Remember that? Remember the passion? Just up until what? That thing lasted just till what, 5-6 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we would get that. No, you guys are confusing it. Well, we're not confusing it. We know what the history was. You changed it once, and then we never got the notification or the update that they changed it another time. And the whole point about biological men playing against biological females is if a biological man believes he is a biological woman, then he is. That's what they believe. And so if you sit there and say, well, no, you're not a biological woman, you have to now compete in your own category of transgenders, has been suggested by mostly the left on this. It's not what they want. You don't even know the radical transgender movement that you claim to be supporting. You don't even know what they want.
Well, and also the language they use, the gender assigned at birth. Assigned?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It's like saying, looking at your birth certificate and going, well, my birth date that I was assigned was wrong because I feel like I'm much younger than that.
Yes, my birth date is wrong.
It's that whole thing of, and by the way, you see this in medical forms now. What gender were you assigned at birth? That's what because former administrations started changing that language through departments at the CDC and everything else, and then doctors' offices start changing it. Biological. It was assigned naturally. There wasn't a doctor going, I hereby declare that this is a male.
Yeah, this is just a opinion based on
right.
This is my opinion that this person assigned at birth because you were a male and female
right.
before the birth.
Right.
Male or female.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the entire thing. That's where they want gender to become sex at that point.
Right.
Well, the gender assigned at birth, well, that's your sex.
Right.
Well, no, it's not. Well, then what the hell is
because
it?
Somebody in the hospital said so?
Well,
no.
wait a minute. So I got a gender assigned at birth, but not a sex assigned at birth?
Right.
Well, what are you trying to communicate here? It's almost as if they want to get you in these circular arguments by throwing all this crap in that makes no sense at all.
That's exactly where they go, because that has to be the wearing down of the public. It is getting old. But it's getting dangerous because the left is fighting for this stuff legally. They're looking to abolish Title IX and eliminate women from sports, eliminate women's rights when it comes to Title IX, and they're not being called on it with the exception of a handful of people.
Now, in the last 4 or 5 days, because there were you had a Keeler show and then with Scott Jennings with the panel, and it was different people on all of them on the left, and they were all saying, well, we believe that more studies are needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where did that come from all of a sudden? We believe more study. We can't defend it, so more studies are needed because people believe this.
But you know, that's the left saying the burden of proof is on you.
No, that's the comprehensive. We need comprehensive immigration reform argument.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Well, no, I mean this is over and over again. They say, well, you need to prove it's a problem.
Yeah.
This is where they're starting with it. Well, more studies, more conversations, more. Nope. Biology is very clear.
Are you sure? Are you sure that men are? I mean, we need more studies. Maybe we're not sure if men are built different than women.
And they're also saying increase the ratio, let it keep happening to see if it becomes a problem. How else would you conduct a study? We need to see if this is going to create a problem, and if it does, we'll address it later. You know it's a problem. And when the left starts, again, these ridiculous ideas, well, maybe they could have their own league. Oh, don't tell that to the radicals.
Yeah, they don't want their own league.
No.
This isn't a league of our own.
No. Or a league of their own.
Was it their own?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it wasn't our, it was there.
Yes.
Thank you.
As far as we know.
Meanwhile, in Oregon, a pair of girls track and field athletes did not stand on the medal podium alongside a transgender athlete for high jump at the Oregon State Championship on Saturday night. Footage obtained by Fox News Digital showed that the two high school seniors stepped down from the respective spots on the podium next to the trans athlete who represented Ida B. Wells High School. And so they just,
The video was very interesting because the official, there was no audio in the video that I saw, but the official seems to be basically telling them to take their place on the podium, and they were like, nope, and they just walked away. Yeah. Good for them. Good for them.
But if there's ever, again, didn't it bring back to you again this weekend? And both of us were traveling and doing stuff. But when I saw some of this audio coming out from CNN and liberals saying, well, we need to study this more. And, I think it's like, guys, stop it. You've lost this argument. Right. Stop it.
It's getting, their defense of it is getting weaker and weaker. You can see that. You see the cracks in their defense. And that tells you how it's actually going. I mean, I really think the president is right. This is a 97-3 issue. Forget 80-20.
And then when I was thinking about all this over the weekend, this audio cut came out where they were discussing who the American public thinks can actually get things done, which party. And this is really interesting. And Hakeem Jeffries is on part of this interview. Here we go.
Mr. Leader, you brought up polls, so let me tell you about a new one that just came out here at CNN this morning. It shows that only 19% of Americans say that your party can get things done. 36 say the same about Republicans. And just 16% say your party has strong leaders. It's pretty rough, and you are one of those leaders. How do you turn that around?
Yeah, we don't have the presidency right now, so that's always going to be challenging. A few months.
No, it's not. Yeah. He didn't have an answer.
Right. Yeah.
And then it came out over the weekend that the top, apparently it's not Harris anymore.
No.
The top Democrat for 2028 is Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He goes to when he's speaking in Iowa, what was that, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
I'm not running for anything. Yeah, right. Sure you're not. It's And look, the polls are going to change drastically between now and the beginning, I guess, of announcement season. And then you got to go through the primary and everything else. I don't know how that works for the left.
Oh, primary? What's a primary?
Right, exactly.
Here it is. More than 30% of Democratic voters now support Pete Buttigieg as their preferred candidate for the 2028 presidential race, according to a new national poll, positioning him up now ahead of prominent party figures such as AOC, former Vice President Kamala Harris. The new Atlas Intel poll has found that the former Transportation Secretary leads the field of potential Democratic candidates for 2028, garnering support from 31.5% of the Democratic identifying respondents.
Mm-hmm.
Democratic, everything is identifying.
Identifying.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
is.
I identify as a Democrat.
The survey was conducted May 21st to the 27th. AOC received the second highest level of support with 19.2%, followed by Harris with 16.6%. Senator Cory Booker secured 10.4% of the support. We'll see how that goes after his Nazi salute.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, don't get on our case for saying Nazi salute. We're only using the Democrat standard to define what a Nazi salute is.
Right. So that standard should definitely be applied equally.
Yes.
And so it applies here.
Election analyst Nate Silver had previously indicated that AOC is a likely contender for the nomination. In an April report published by his Silver Bulletin, Silver wrote that Ocasio-Cortez, a progressive member of the squad, is the one to lead the Democrats into the next presidential cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Who else praised her? Oh, James Carville.
James Carville
Yeah,
said he'd vote for
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
Silver praised Atlanta's Intel as a top-rated firm, calling it the most accurate pollster in the 2024 presidential election. Galen Droke, a former host of the 538 podcast, concurred with Silver's assessment. He cited a Yale University survey showing Ocasio-Cortez held one of the highest net favorability ratings among Democrats, with a favorability rating of 60%. The same survey identified Harris as the second most likely candidate to secure the nomination. While receiving comparatively lower support, Newsom has been working to reshape his national image, according to the Associated Press.
Yeah.
So I guess they didn't have Crockett on there because she won't be 35 by that time, will she?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. You know, that was a question about AOC for a while. It's like, okay, she's not old enough yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, she is. She can run. What was I thinking of? She's 44. She's 44.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking of somebody else. There's somebody else that was in there. That was okay. I just checked it there. Well, where's Jasmine Crockett then?
VP. AOC. And Jasmine Crockett. Oh, please make that happen. Please. Somebody
By the way,
make that happen.
I want to make this. No, the Atlas Intel was not a likely voter poll. It was all Americans. And it wasn't a registered voter poll, which could be the difference of why Buttigieg leads and not AOC.
Right. It
So
was
I'm
also taken in May of 2025, which means it's going to change between now and whenever. But it is interesting to see that he found his way to the top, and his...
The beard.
The
beard.
I think the beard and going to Iowa sealed the deal.
Put the beard. Get the beard on.
Yeah. It's the J.D. Vance thing to do.
Or is it Democrats saying, okay, we want AOC, but she's not electable. Buttigieg he's pretending lately that he's moving to the center, and that's what we need. We need to start BSing completely and try to convince the American public that we're going to the center when we're not. And Buttigieg is the one that they believe can lead them to the center.
Well, look, according to Tim Walz himself, remember, he was the permission structure. And
he gave men the code.
The code
of why they could vote for Harris and him.
While they're working on their trucks and watching football.
Right.
He forgot eating brats.
And drinking their beer.
Drinking their beer,
working on their trips.
doing man stuff.
And the syntax has got to be like this.
That's
How's
right.
everybody doing?
Yeah. That kind of thing, you know.
Because men are idiots.
That's right. It's all.
Or grunt,
So they-
like Tim Allen.
Right. And so
Say things like carburetor and points and condenser in order to get the older men to vote for you.
now Pete Buttigieg is going to connect with guys by telling them how to fix their bikes. And I don't mean motorcycles. Their bicycles. Don't forget to wear a helmet.
Do you mean the Pee Wee Herman constituency of the Democratic Party?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, an update, because this is really, really interesting. You and I, when they were talking about the Ukrainian attack, the drone attack on those Russian planes, and they were talking about houses. We're like, do they mean that's where they housed in these things that were on trucks? Actually, they were like small cabins or something?
Small cabins. And
that you could put on a truck.
Yeah.
Like tiny homes.
Right. Yeah, I guess small enough. And the roofs had a hidden compartment, basically had a hidden space that could fit the drones. And the bombers that they destroyed here, we're going to talk about those coming up. A very interesting story behind those.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. More of update on that Ukrainian attack, the drone attack on those Russian warplanes.
Yeah, so it was codenamed Spider's Web. I'd read that before, and the AP version said just Web, but it was Spider's Web, according to officials there in Ukraine. But it was interesting how and when this actually took place, and it was an 18-month-long mission in its planning and execution of it. The attack was carried out exactly 29 years, according to the Daily Mail. Carried out exactly 29 years to the day after Ukraine handed over dozens of the same strategic bombers to Russia, along with up to 2,000 strategic nuclear warheads and 176 ICBMs in exchange for a promise not to be attacked under the Budapest Memorandum. Now, they go through here this how they house them in these tiny cabins, all right? Basically, they put them on the backs of trucks. There were a number of trucks. All the trucks were in range of these 5 airfields stretching from northern Russia down to Siberia. This was 2,500 miles from Ukraine. And they remotely opened the roofs of these cabins and sent these drones flying. What's interesting, too, is that you talk about what Russia has and doesn't have. The A-50 mainstay, they have about 10 of these in service. This is an aerial command and radar center, basically. They took out one of those. They destroyed several Tu-22Ms. There were fewer than 500 were manufactured. Keep in mind, Russia hasn't for a long time made new aircraft, right? They also took out an estimated $1.5 billion total worth of equipment, including several Tu-95s. But the capability that these aircraft had when it comes to the delivery of nuclear warheads is key. I think it's also key the day that it happened, 29 years to the day after that agreement, that they executed that plan.
Is that the symbolism behind it?
Yeah, I think there has to be symbolism there, no doubt. I think it was meant to be a message in that. But again, if you're taking out a great deal, Ukraine claims, 37% of their ability. That, if that's accurate and true, that is a huge chunk because, again, Russia is not making new planes. They just aren't. 34%. In total, 117 drones were used in the operation with a corresponding number of drone operators involved. By the way, the drivers of these trucks were Russian. They didn't know that these drones, according to the Daily Mail, the drivers of the trucks didn't know the cabins had drones in them. And so it was a private fleet of trucks. So I guess they just were told by who they thought was the customer, I don't know, delivering these cabins. Here, take them here, drive them here. And that's what they did. And then remotely, the roofs of those cabins open up and the drones go to work. It's not impossible, but really hard for me to believe there wasn't some outside help, at least from some intel community, whether it was U.S. or some other nation or a combination of all the above. Maybe even some intel from inside Russia. I don't know. That would be a great risk for anybody inside Russia, especially in the Russian military. If Putin is to find that out, obviously, we know what would happen. But it's hard to believe they didn't have some assistance. Because if you talk about the strategy here, you take out one of the 10 mainstays, which, again, is an aerial command, which helps to navigate basically a lot of the aerial attacks on Ukraine for Russia, and then the nuclear payload delivery ability on some of those other planes, those other bombers. By the way, the way that they write it here at the Daily Mail makes it sound like some of those bombers were the very ones that they turned over 29 years ago that Ukraine used to own.
You can see somewhere, I'm guessing, turboprops.
Yeah.
Some of the bombers.
Yeah. So
that were being destroyed. You
Right,
could see
right.
you could see they had propellers on
right.
them. So.
Yeah. Ukraine claims it's 41 aircraft. So again, that would be a huge chunk of his ability of his aircraft, Putin's aircraft, but also how does it diminish? Because there has to be a great concern. Everybody's talked about it from day one on nukes. And I haven't seen anywhere as to how this damages. Maybe someone's written it. I just haven't come across it. How far this damages, how much damage it did to his ability, basically, to deliver those nuclear warheads.
You know, I started thinking when the entire thing of, wondering how did Ukraine put this all together? How could it be a year and a half? How could you get this close to Russian military planes? And I go back to a discussion that I actually saw on Jason Alexander's podcast on YouTube. Yes, I know George Costanza. I know we make a lot of Seinfeld references. It's not why I'm bringing this up, but he was interviewing Jeff Skunk Baxter, the great guitarist from Steely Dan, the Doobie Brothers, who was also one of this country's most I guess most well known, maybe not well known, but I've known it for a long time. He's an expert on missile systems, military systems, international terrorism, and the military strengths of different countries throughout the world. And actually, when he was on Jason Alexander, he told him when he was doing some stuff for Ringo Starr, they're in there, and, somebody said, well, what happens if the Pentagon calls? He goes, well, I'm going to have to leave. They're doing the session. Two guys walk in black suits and say, you got to come with us. And he's got to leave. It's like, okay, bye. And, and so Jason Alexander, and I'll see if I can find the audio here because it was a pretty long podcast. I got to go find it and everything else for the transcript. I'll see if I can find. One of Jason Alexander's first question outside of music was on Russia. How strong is Russia militarily? And he didn't give any, of course, top secrets, but Jeff Skunk Baxter did not seem impressed.
Yeah.
He viewed China as a much worse threat. But I think when it came to the military capabilities of Russia against the United States, I think that was the context it was put in. He was not impressed. And I know when you say Jeff Skunk Baxter, it's like, the guy's a musician. Well, not real. I mean, yeah, he is, but he isn't. He's got a lot of other talents that are used by the U.S. government. He's been a consultant for everybody, Pentagon, you name it, presidents, just amazing. Because you look at him and you'd look at him, you'd never figure that, would you? If you looked at him.
No, definitely not. No, definitely not.
This guy's a hippie. This guy knows a ton of top secrets. This guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that just sits in the back of my mind because you and I just wondering, how did this take place? How could it have been a year and a half? Did they have Russian help? Why has Trump been so quiet on this entire thing? Those are just all things that make you go,
Yeah, and that meeting, by the way, between Russia and Ukraine is supposed to start in just over 1 hour, if Russia shows up. I fully expected we'd hear already that it's not going to happen. I haven't seen that yet. So I guess we'll see. But fascinating how this all came together as we learn more and more details. But I have to believe that there was outside intel. Ukraine got some help somewhere. The planning of it is very interesting. And he did say, Zelensky, in his address, by the way, did say this operation will continue. So it tells me they've got drones hidden somewhere else.
Why would you say that?
Yeah. Right.
Why would you talk about how many drones you had? Why would you give away so much? Again, probably anybody could figure it out, but still, why would you give out that much information? I mean, and there are possible answers to it. You want him to keep thinking, we can get you where you don't,
Well,
we can get you.
Because if you add this to the execution of two of his top military leaders in recent months, I think that really sends the message. But also, is it in part you're trying to build morale inside your own country and trying to also destroy morale inside Russia? That we're not going away, we have this ability, and we're going to keep fighting. I don't know. But if they were able to pull this off, now it will be the next, wherever. I don't know if they're going to do it with drones or how they're going to do it. But it's very interesting looking at the details of this and thinking about how this all worked. And again, it would be hard for me to believe there was no outside intel on this. Because if you're talking about targeting
or inside intel,
right? If you're talking about nuclear capable aircraft, that is something that everybody was concerned about. If you take away his ultimate ace card, the ultimate threat here, if you diminish that greatly, then what does he have? And it happens right before the talks are supposed to continue.
Well, you think about if something like this happened at a U.S. military base, heads would roll.
Oh,
like you can't believe heads would roll.
Yeah. There is no doubt. Yeah, there is no doubt.
It's going to be really interesting to see when somebody comes up with the animation. Somebody's going to do it with artificial intelligence. Here's what happened. Here's what the houses look like, or the cabins. Here's what the roofs look like.
Well,
here's how it was stored. Here's how it opened up.
In fact, there is they do kind of have a map here at the Daily Mail, and it's interesting looking at that, basically looking at the strategy of where the trucks were parked and where the strikes were. And again, according to the story, the drivers of those trucks were Russian, had no idea what was going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that because that was another question. Who were the truck drivers?
Yeah, they were Russian. They had no idea what was going on. It was a private for-hire thing, and it wasn't, they weren't military Russians, but they had no idea.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? Because our show ends in an hour. And after our show ends, it becomes our podcast because we record the show. Mm-hmm. We have the technology to record the show.
We do.
And then it becomes the podcast.
It's not the greatest technology, but we have some technology.
Well, we've got the little gerbil there and the little squirrel and the thing turning the wheel.
Right.
And also, because if for some reason you can't listen to one of our great radio stations overnight, we do stream all 5 hours on our Red Eye Radio app.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.